First thing we're going to do is change the oil, because I've been putting off turning on the bike even, because I just don't trust the oil that's in it. So we got our HF 147 filter. I believe this is the one it takes. I just tried looking at the old filter and seeing what looks similar, and 10W40 fully synthetic. Before you start changing the oil, you want to make sure that your bike is level or on the center stand. It's not on the center stand on this one because this one is completely mangled. It just does not work. It needs to be welded up. So instead I chalked up the side stand with a few blocks, and it's pretty much level now. Also, you might want to ride your bike, get it to operating temperature before you start draining the oil. It's probably best to do that so the oil comes out a lot quicker and it's a lot easier and faster to do. But I'm not going to run the bike in this case. The battery is dead and it's been sitting up here for a few months. So I presume all the oil would be in the sump by now, and I'll let that drain for a long time. So it shouldn't be too much of a difference in this case. You can locate the sump plug, come to the left hand side of the bike, and just underneath here, underneath the frame, you'll see the sump plug there, right there, that one. And it is a size 17. You mightn't be able to fit a socket and ratchet in there, but you will get a size 17 spanner either end, and take it off fairly handy, depending on how tight it is. There we go. Not too bad. That wasn't too hard to break loose, which is good. What I like doing when I'm changing the oil is I don't like my hands getting oily. So try and feel the very last thread and then flick it off maybe. Like that. Perfect. Not a bit of oil on my fingers. Yeah. Let all that pour out. That does look nasty. Now your oil filter, you might have guessed, is located at the very front of the engine. You can see it right there. That's it right there. So it's a little bit more difficult to get at because it's kind of behind bars, right behind your exhaust headers. So you might be able to fit a hand in there because it's quite hard to get a hand in there. You might want to get the oil filter remover tool. Something like this. This is removing for a remover for some oil filters. They come in different types. Sometimes you have a nylon band, or one like this, or a chain one. There's a few different types, but this one seems to do just fine for me. So you can fit it on around the filter, somewhat like that. Tighten it up, and then break off the seal, break it loose, and maybe if you can fit your hand in there, take the rest off by hand. Nice and tight. Oh wow, that was actually pretty easy. Okay, good. Some of them can be really tight. Go like that. What I like to do as well sometimes is, when I have the bike outside, before doing the oil change, I like to get the power washer and clean all around this area, around your filter, around your headers and your front of your engine, because there's always loads of dirt and crud building up here from your front tire spitting it up, you know. So that would stop a lot of all this stuff and dirt falling down into your oil pan when you're removing the filter. And oh, oil start coming out now, so bring the pan over. Now, it's normal for all the oil to get onto your exhaust. No big deal. Wipe off the excess with some paper towel or something, and then when you have the bike running, it'll just burn off. No problem. There we go. It's good to have plenty of rags or tissues at the ready.
or oily mess like this. And there we go. Oh, hitting the camera. Bosh. Alright, that's your filter out. It's a good idea as well to clean around where the filter seal sits onto the engine, because you don't want any dirt or something interrupting that seal. You could have an oil leak.
So, some filter seals come pre-lubed on the top here. This one doesn't seem to have that. It seems pretty dry. So it's good practice to always put a bit of oil onto the seal, so it gets a very good seal then. Just get it, put it around. Now sometimes you can actually fill this filter up with oil, so the engine isn't without oil for any duration of time. But it's a bit difficult when you're installing filters down the way and sideways sometimes. So you can fill it up a bit, but you won't be able to fill it up all the way.
I'm going to put a tissue over the filter like that when I'm putting it in, so no dirt goes in while I'm pushing it through the cesspit. That's where power washing it comes in handy. So now that the filter is somewhat in the right position, time to offer it up to the engine. It is a bit awkward and finicky. But once it's on, it'll just slide on there. And you can see how the oil that I put into it didn't spill out. That's because it wasn't filled to the top, maybe 60%. You should never ever over tighten these filters. It's just a bad idea. Makes it really hard to come off next time, and you might compromise the seal. Alright, that should be it.
It's time to put the sump plug back in. So there's a little washer there on the sump plug, and that's the crush washer. Usually after every oil change you should replace it with a new one. However, if they do look okay and they're not overused and mangled, you can reuse them. I recommend getting a new one, and it is recommended to get a new one because that makes the best seal. However, if they do look okay and if you're in a pinch, you can reuse them. It's not the end of the world. I don't have any at the moment. I forgot to get one. Usually they're little copper crush washers, sometimes different material. But if they look okay and they're not mangled, they are okay to reuse. Recommend to get a new one though. So I'm not exactly sure how much oil goes in it, but you're gonna need your sight glass. So bike still needs to be on a very level surface. Sight glass right there. You can kind of see when the oil gets in it, just by the color changing really. So remove a little cap there. Keep filling it up until we see the oil starting to reach the sight glass. When you see the oil there, just slow down and wait till the oil reaches the top of the sight glass.
Okay, you see the oil starting to come in, and it's reached the top almost. Keep going until it reaches the top. I think it has. So you can double check, see how much oil there is kind of in the bike just by putting it on the side stand, and you see it go up and down. Because sometimes you mightn't see if that's empty or not, but you know when you see the air bubble.
Now, when your oil's at the top of the sight glass, or just a bit above it, it's time to get the engine running and hot and get all that oil around all the parts. So this bike has not been running in a few months and the battery is completely dead. So it's time to get a jumper pack and get her fired up. There we go. Positive here. Negative. Alright, now we have some lights. The lights are on. On, in neutral. Alright. Okay, that was quicker than I expected, not too bad. Okay. One more time. So once you had the bike running for a few minutes and everything's nice and hot, let the bike rest for around 3-4 minutes. Check your sight glass again. Here we can see it's around 3/4 of the way up. That's a pretty good level. It's dropped a bit to fill the oil filter and coat all the parts in a thin layer of oil. If you want, you can top it up again, close to the top. Maybe leave a tiny air bubble towards the top. Usually if it's down lower than halfway, always top it up, you know, around 3/4 of the way, just to keep it nice and topped up. You can also find the exact amount of oil in the first place that goes into the bike by a bit of research. I do it this way. I've done it. It's worked out good so far. Everyone has their own kind of way of doing things. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the oil change done.